Good evening, everyone. I'm Bobby Wilson. I'm a city councilman for this district, District 1. Welcome to the north side if you're from some other part of town. But also welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's public hearing for Thursday, May 19th, 2022, relative to the proposed annexation of Wilkinsburg. Will the clerk please read the subject of the hearing?
Subject of the hearing tonight is the City of Pittsburgh's proposed annexation of Wilkinsburg Borough.
Okay, for the record, we are joined today by Councilman Lavelle and myself. Our first order of business will be a presentation followed by a testimony from our registered speakers. And Councilman Lavelle, I'll just hand you this. Thank you.
So good evening, everyone. Glad to be here with you. Council has put together a very basic presentation. I'm going to try not to read it word for word, but it's just to give you sort of a baseline of Wilkinsburg, of the city, and what it looks like when we share services with another municipality, essentially. So thank you. So one, we just wanted to point out that the Pittsburgh region is very decentralized. We actually have the most municipalities within a county of any, I believe, county in the country, actually. And this sort of shows how our government is decentralized, and also points out that Wilkinsburg is approximately 1/20th the size of Pittsburgh. Next slide. This next slide shows that we have already combined some services and provide services for the Borough of Wilkinsburg. In 2006, we started providing garbage collection. In 2011, fire, and then in 2015, Wilkinsburg residents started attending Pittsburgh Public Schools. Next slide. This is essentially a case study of the Wilkinsburg firehouse consolidation, and really shows that Wilkinsburg has actually benefited from the city of Pittsburgh providing fire services to that borough. Next slide. The next slide is sort of a case study on the garbage collection, and basically shows that Wilkinsburg is saving approximately $680,000, close to $700,000 a year by the city providing that service. Next slide. This slide is meant to just show you that this would not be the first time. The city has also provided services to other boroughs and areas. We provided for Ingram, their fire department, Mount Oliver, their residents attend Pittsburgh Public Schools, and we also have merged with the Millville Water and Sewer Authority in 2009. Next slide. This is meant to show you that fundamentally Wilkinsburg faces a number of structural economic challenges. They've lost 4,100 residents since 2000. They have an incurring steadily declining tax base. Their property taxes continue to rise, and they're determined, and all of that provide determinants to private investment coming into the borough. Next slide. This basically shows that due to those structural changes, Wilkinsburg is limited on how they're actually going to raise revenue. They have increased expenditures, but they have a lack of revenue, which is the opposite of any scenario you want to have. Next slide. And this is, again, essentially is iterating the same point, that their revenue their expenditures will continue to rise, while their revenue will not, without a merger. And we can end it there. So that's just to give you sort of a basic conversation of why this conversation is even beginning to happen, and why the Borough of Wilkinsburg has approached the city of Pittsburgh about a potential annexation. Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. And now we're going to move on to testimony from registered speakers. Once your name is called, please give your full name and address for the public record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address council. Please keep in mind that this is an opportunity for the community to speak directly to Pittsburgh Council about the issue at hand, and at a time for council to listen. Therefore, council will not be responding to individual comments. So it looks like all the speakers are just in person, right? There's not a Zoom option? Okay. So I'm going to call the first speaker, and you can come up to the mic and state your name and where you're from. First speaker's name is Glenn Friend. And also, I apologize if I got your name wrong at all. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, council members. I'm a Wilkinsburg resident, and I live at 807 Rebecca Avenue. I don't know if this is. Yes. It is on, okay. And I'm here to address the audience and the council members about, in favor of the resolution to put the question on the ballot for next year. And one thing is I'm a longtime resident of Wilkinsburg. I lived there for 30 years. And I've been a homeowner for the last 20 years. I've seen some positive and not so positive changes. The most positive ones being the ones that Councilman Wilson just presented on your slideshow, the merger of the school district, the high school, the fire department. So we are incrementally moving in the direction of merger of services. We just don't have the political situation resolved. Setting aside structural problems with inequalities and inefficiencies in funding of the school district in the state, certain things are beyond our control because we're not a suburb like Mount Lebanon. But we do have an interdependent relationship. Just to give a metaphor, the collapse of the Fern Hollow Bridge shows how connected we are, how we take for granted things that connect us with the city. And when that structure is gone, we miss it. We want to rebuild that relationship. So that's just an anecdotal thing for me. So just skipping along, I don't have a lot of prepared statements, but my immediate neighborhood has had some rebuilding and renovation through the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, historic preservation, but it's not really enough to offset all the blight on the block that I live in. And the number of vacant property acquisition that we processed on the Planning Commission has not kept up with influx of residents. So as the slideshow pointed out, we're the bleeding population. There's no way to make up for it. There's no silver bullet. There's nothing that's going to happen that I can foresee based on my experience in Wilkinsburg that's going to turn things around in the near future. We've been struggling to keep good staff, get outside funding, and I think this is a positive thing for the city, which has also lost your population, and in order to maintain your status as a large metropolitan area, you have to stay at a certain level. So that's going to help both of us. Okay, right. Those are my main comments for today. So I appreciate your support in moving forward with the proposition.
All right, thank you, Glenn. Our next speaker is Charles Wise.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Bud Wise. I reside at 1039 Somerset Drive in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of the city. I am a native of Wilkinsburg. I'm a graduate of Wilkinsburg High School. I have deep roots there, still attend church there, and I am an advocate for revitalization in Wilkinsburg. About 4 years ago, I was invited to join the WCDC board, the Wilkinsburg Community Development Corporation board, and I currently serve as its chair. I want to confirm to you, because some claim otherwise, that the idea of joining up with the city was born out of a grassroots initiative. The input came from over 150 people who participated in focus groups, which were open to all. That planted the seed, and we've moved forward since then. So I strongly support annexation. I think it would be a win for both Pittsburgh and for Wilkinsburg. I've watched my hometown decline for decades. You have the facts, so I won't repeat them. It's the population loss, the reduction in businesses, it's the increase in vacant properties and blight. And you know that the primary obstacle to investment in Wilkinsburg is the high property tax rate, which is about double the city property tax rate. Structural change is necessary to reverse these trends. And despite every good intention and best efforts, the borough itself is not in a position to achieve structural change. I favor annexation not only because I care about Wilkinsburg, but also I care about the city that I live in. The early studies about this annexation suggest that there is, a slight financial surplus, which is probably not significant, but the point is that there is no financial disadvantage of this annexation. More importantly, for the city, it will add, say, 14,000 to 15,000 to its population, which will help ensure that it won't reduce below that key threshold of 300,000 people that is so important for certain federal funding. I think we all know about the inefficiencies and the tax inequalities that result from our fragmented government. Your presentation makes the point about the fragmented government here. The fact that Pittsburgh already successfully provides...
It's 3 minutes.
I'm at 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can turn, I just want to be, I guess we could be pretty loose here, but I just want to be fair to everyone to keep it to 3. But you can turn your comments in
Okay,
to
I
us,
will.
and we'll,
Well, I'm just saying it's time to vote for a change.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
thank you. You can even email them to the clerk.
Oh, yeah.
And then the clerk sends it to all members. All right. Our next speaker is Kate Luxembourg. Then we'll move on to Renee Doney. All right. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, I hope you can hear
You
me.
want to come up and,
I got bad days out and all.
okay.
Yeah, we have to bring it to you. It's being recorded for the TV channel, so you have to. No.
Thank you. Okay. I'm wondering, with the deficit and everything, COVID, I hope there's hope for
Can you say your name and
Wilkinsburg.
neighborhood for the record? Your name?
Carl R. Morton,
Yeah.
Morton. And
Thank you.
he made good sense. He made good sense of what he said. Both men made good sense of what they were saying. But will that burden the city of Pittsburgh if the Wilkinsburg and Pittsburgh merge? Considering the inflation, stuff like that, taxes.
We're going to make some comments at the end. You can-
Okay.
Yeah, just try and finish your comments, and then we'll.
Okay. I'm finished.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me
Thank you.
speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to make comment? All right, so seeing no further speakers, We, so council typically makes comment. Councilman Lavelle?
So council is currently going through a process where we're trying to examine what a potential merger of the Borough of Wilkinsburg and the City of Pittsburgh would look like from all aspects. So from a public safety standpoint, what would that look like? What would the financial costs be to the city? And so we're currently going through that process. So we don't know the definitive answer to your question. What I can tell you, having looked at the numbers on a very basic level, is it does not suggest that it would be a financial burden to the city, in part because we, as sort of put in the slide, we already provide a number of services to the borough, and based upon their revenue, their deficit, based upon our current budget, it looks like it, for the most part, would be sort of net neutral, and that it wouldn't really be a burden to the city, but I don't want to say that definitively because we're going through the process of analyzing all the numbers now.
Thank you.
Okay. We did have a couple people come in. I just want to ask if either are Kate Luxembourg or Renee Dolney. Kate? Okay. Renee, would you like to make comment?
Sure.
Kind of going out of order here. We started making comment, but I think, I think we're good.
Can I take my mask off?
Sure.
Okay. Hi. So I've spoken with you before. I'm Renee Dolney, and I'm a resident of Wilkinsburg. And I just want to be clear that Wilkinsburg doesn't want this. This entire drive is not a grassroots campaign. This is being driven by the Wilkinsburg Community Development Corporation, which was founded by a banker from Fox Chapel. This is not a grassroots organization. In November, when Pittsburgh had their hearings, Bruce Krause laid it out really clearly what's going on here. This is about bankers and developers who will make a fortune if they continue the East Liberty Bakery Square development into Wilkinsburg, but Wilkinsburg doesn't want this. So just to give you an example, so you know I'm not just saying that, yesterday many of my fellow residents were at the polls, and we were there all day long talking to Wilkinsburgers about annexation. So these are people who vote in the primary, and I would say 85% are against it. Today I went to lunch, I walked into a rib shack, and I didn't know there was such a thing as YouTube News, but apparently there's YouTube local news, and this hearing, that's all everybody there in Wilkinsburg was talking about, was this hearing and how against the annexation they are rather. So this is not popular. If you end up putting it on the ballot, it is in fact going to fail. I know that the WCDC has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars sending out their mailers and trying to host their public meetings, but it has not moved the needle for public opinion. Wilkinsburg is fine. We like being a small community. We are not going bankrupt. When you say things like, oh, we provide services, you're not donating anything to the residents of Wilkinsburg. We have a contract with the City of Pittsburgh for services. We have contracts with other providers for services, right? So, and we can end those contracts. We like being independent, and we like being in control of our borough. I don't know what the benefits are for the City of Pittsburgh, but I would imagine that if you live in the north side, if you live in the west end, why would you want to see more development money go to the east end? East Liberty is fine. Why would you want to continue it into Wilkinsburg? That money should go to the west end. That money should go to the north shore. It doesn't need to go to Wilkinsburg, and Wilkinsburg doesn't want it. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Would anyone else like to make comment?
Kate Luxembourg.
Kate Luxembourg.
I signed up to speak to Jory.
Yep. If you come to the microphone and state your name and neighborhood for the record.
Kate Luxembourg, Wilkinsburg. I understand that from the point of view of Pittsburgh, it would be attractive to annex Wilkinsburg to increase the population of the city of Pittsburgh. But that is not the right way to increase the population of the city of Pittsburgh. The right way, where everything turns out right, is to get the properties that are in legal limbo back on the tax rolls and back available as affordable housing. I know that, I believe you're on the URA and you've spoken, no. Oh, you are. well, here we go. Somebody on city council has spoken about the problem of the tax liens holding, the county tax liens holding properties in legal limbo, and that's absolutely true. These tiny little properties that would be good affordable housing have for $2.37 owed in Allegheny County taxes, have a tax lien that requires $60 servicing fee to settle, and that's really not okay. And that includes a 10% servicing fee to Jordan Tax. So look, even if you don't need the tax revenue from these modest properties, look at the problem of it from the point of view of affordable housing is needed. And the most affordable housing is the housing that's already built and is not so far gone that a rehab would cost as much as new construction. So get your population that way by bringing back the tax delinquent properties. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman, you have any further?
Anyone else wishing to speak, just come forward.
Hi, and thank you. I apologize for being late, but we hadn't been in the Squirrel Hill tunnels in a long time, and we decided to park there. So anyway, it took us a minute to get here, and I apologize. My name is Denise Edwards, and I'm the president of the Wilkinsburg Borough Council. The main point, two main points I want to make is that Wilkinsburg Council, as you guys may know, did pass a resolution about 2 years ago rejecting this effort. And part of the reasoning for that is the whole effort to annex does not come from a group of concerned Wilkinsburg residents who are tired of high taxes. That's not the origin of this. And also, it doesn't come from the city of Pittsburgh, as far as I can tell. Where it comes from are big developers, big bankers, who are looking at the East End and see nothing but dollar signs before their eyes. The county executive, Fitzgerald, as much as told us that the big developers, like Oxford, I am not an expert, as you may be, on big development in Pittsburgh. That's not what I do. But they look out and they see Wilkinsburg sitting there, and who controls it? Well, actually, at this point, I can say with all confidence, and not hyperbole, that the people of Wilkinsburg do. And we do our very best. And that is what this is about. That's its origin. As Renee alluded, we looked at the 990s for the Wilkinsburg Development Corporation, and they have received what we can identify, $300,000 to do this campaign for annexation. They hired full-time petitioners. Apparently they couldn't get volunteers from our community, as well as very expensive attorneys and everything else. The $300,000 in our budget is about a third of a bill of taxes. And so, it's about a bill of taxes. I have to check with Pamela, who's our finance chair. But that's a lot of money in our town, just to do this campaign. Coming from where? Coming from our Community Development Corporation, who arguably has a very checkered record in redeveloping our town. That's why I want you to look at the origin, because we know it's not the city, and we know it isn't just some group or some group of dissatisfied taxpayers. We know it's a concerted effort. I would really urge you, going forward, to reject this rogue effort, and to let us please remain a community which is not only sustainable, but which is growing. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate the time to speak to you.
Thank you, Denise. Anybody else wishing to speak? Okay. Any more comments before I do?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I continually see, well, number one, thanks for all the speakers. I don't want to forget that, and everyone who came and gave comment, and everyone has been sending in comments, and also your effort to travel all the way over to the north side and come to the Pride Project to see maybe, at least at some point, we should at least have, maybe Jonathan could give someone an overview of what happens in this this used to be Chatham School. But, specific to what's being proposed here, or what was proposed and then was rejected by council. And, I asked this question directly to, I guess it was the CDC, the executive director. So, which was, how would this be started up again? They would literally have to go around, I guess if they're paying for, petitioners, maybe that's the same process again. And I just continually see, as a public official in the mix of, what the state has put forward as what the process is, and something like this hasn't happened in a long time. The last time that's kind of stained on my, on my brain is the north side. And in that process, it really wasn't fair, because it was the total votes of both the city of Pittsburgh and also Allegheny City. This is different, but I still am taking it seriously, about individuals from Wilkinsburg and also the city that, talk about being opposed to it. But I also want to just be mindful that we do have this process that, we call democracy, where this is in place, and we all just, hopefully a lot of people here on Tuesday express that right to vote. And so I'm continually thinking about, not only is it okay for Pittsburgh or right for Pittsburgh, or just like the councilman said, we're going through the process of trying to understand all the ins and outs of what that would really look like. And being the chair of the Economic Development and Land Use Committee, I have some specific questions on how that would look like and what that means for the city of Pittsburgh. But I'm just letting you all know what I'm continually faced with this decision, because it's really just to allow the residents of Wilkinsburg to make their own decision, which was this is a legal process that was put in place. So I haven't made my mind up completely. I voted against it previously, but I'm allowing the process to take place where we're having these public hearings. It's super helpful to continually hear people that are for it and against it. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming. Okay. Jonathan, you want to get up and say a few? We can end the public hearing, and then we can still keep the mic on. Yeah? Okay. So having exhausted the business of this public hearing, I don't even have a thing, but this meeting is adjourned.